Hello, my name is Murtaza. I'm an accountant. We work as under Insta Accountant in Toronto. As you know, we do a lot of self-employed services, Uber drivers, Lyft, Eats, and delivery people, and the contractors and incorporated professionals. So, in this video, we're going to talk about, so if you've started or you're deciding to start a delivery business like Uber Eats or DoorDash, Skip the Dishes, Instacart, corner shop, all those delivery gigs and you're just starting off with that journey. So we're going to be talking about what are the important things that you need to know at this point in time. So it's always better to know before than learning about that thing after at the tax time. So this video is going to help you develop an understanding that what needs to be done and what needs to be known during this time, so that you can this is going to help you during the tax time when you file your tax returns. So the first thing is that you need to understand is, and again, this video is for anyone who's, let's say, doing Uber Eats or Skip the Dishes and DoorDash and all those things. Basically, a delivery business. Does not matter if they're doing it part-time or full-time. If you're doing it on a bike or on your foot or on your car, doesn't matter. But the general understanding, what you need to know. So the first thing is that you need to know is that the difference between self-employed and employed income, right? So I'm assuming that you're already doing a job. So if you're doing currently doing a job, you're basically giving your services and you're getting paid at the month end or whatever the frequency could be. And at the year end, you'll get a T4 or something and T4A, and you're going to file your tax return. But if let's say if you started doing Uber Eats, so in that scenario, if you start doing that, you have become a self-employed. So what is a self-employed? A person who is just doing something on of his own and making an income I just don't want to go into the technical definitions, but it's just that you're being your own boss. You set your schedules and just work off of something which may be an app in case of Uber Eats, and you get the money from Uber Eats, and then there is also some expenses that you are making to get that income, right? So that's what self-employed is. So it's basically a small business that you're running, which has income stream and which has expenses incurred to make that income. And the second thing is that if you're self-employed, you need to understand what the tax implications, right? So obviously we're not going to be going into the details, but this is an overview that what you need to know at this point in time, right? So the first thing is, actually the second thing is that as a self-employed, the basic understanding that you want to have is that there is no tax deduction at source. So what that means is that if you're an employee, your employer, the company that you're working for or the organization, they deduct some income tax before off of your salary and give the rest of the amount to you, and whatever tax they collected from your check or from your salary, they send that to CRA. So that's called deduction at source or payroll deductions. But in case of, let's say, Uber Eats or any other self-employed income, you're not getting any taxes deducted, which kind of brings the bar on your shoulder that you have to take care of your income tax yourself, right? And there is also another type of tax which is called sales tax, which is called harmonized sales tax in Ontario and a few other provinces as well, which is basically related to your income. So whenever you're making income, there could be a sales tax you need to charge on top of that income from your client or customer. So the point that I'm trying to make over here is that there is two different types of taxes that may impact you. The first one is the income tax, but this time the nature is different. It's for self-employed, right? And the second type of tax that impacts you is gonna be HST, or the sales tax. So two types of taxes. For Uber Eats, I want to explain the HST in a little bit more detail, but I have discussed this thing in detail in another video, which you can watch. I'll put the description, the link in the description as well, which is totally related to the HST for Uber Eats in detail, right? But the first thing that you need to know is that for Uber Eats, if your revenue is going above $30,000, if your income is going above $30,000, you need to register for HST yourself. It's your responsibility. It's not Uber's responsibility or any other person's responsibility. If your income is going beyond $30,000, you need to call CRA and get the HST. And once you get the HST, you need to inform Uber that they should be collecting HST off of the work that you're doing, right? So the threshold is $30,000 income. So it's not Uber which is going to come to you and say, hey, your income is going beyond that. Will you want to do HST? You should register for HST. They do or they do not come to you, doesn't matter. This is your responsibility, that you have to make sure that you've started collecting HST, right? And HST is not a bad thing. People just get kind of scared of HST, so you don't have to get scared of HST. It's a good thing as well, right? So so that's one thing that you need to know. And in detail, I've made another video. You can watch that video for details on HST. The second thing is that as a self-employed, as an Uber driver, you need to be on top of your bookkeeping. So what bookkeeping is, basically it's recording and organizing and keeping the information about your income and your expenses, proper information about your income and expenses. The outcome of that bookkeeping is that you know that this is your income and these are the expenses. So as a driver, you will be putting gas in your car, maintenance, insurance, this and that, all those expenses, right? So you need to kind of have or make a good record of all those, all that information, and organize it in a manner that it kind of helps you and also your accountant at the end of the year when he's filing your tax returns. So bookkeeping is important. And the other value, which is very important, that is added to you by bookkeeping is that you have a better clarity and visibility of your financials. You're just doing Uber Eats and spending on your gas and this and that. At the end of the month, you don't know how much you made. Like how much you made, you would know from Uber, which is well kept by Uber. But how much expenses did you pay for to make that income? So if you're doing bookkeeping, you will be knowing that those expenses. And also the net income, that okay, what is my income less expenses, what is the net amount that's coming to me? That's your actual income, and by the way, which is taxable. The next thing is that you need to keep receipts with you for all the expenses that you're doing to earn that Uber Eats income, and CRA requires you to keep those receipts for 6 years. And I would just mention Zoombooks.app here, which is an app that we developed for self-employed people, and it kind of helps you organize your doing that expense tracking and bookkeeping using that mobile app. It's very helpful, and it's designed keeping your needs and problems in mind. So you can use that or any other app to keep the receipts as well as stay on top of the bookkeeping. The next thing is expenses, the expenses that you can claim as deductions when you're filing your tax return. So as I mentioned earlier, in this case, in case of Uber Eats, you're not paying any, you're not getting any income tax deducted at the time of making the income. Rather, you're going to be reporting that or paying that income tax at the year end, right? When you file your income tax return. That's what's going to happen, right? So as a self-employed, what you do is that you're making the income. So for example, you did a food delivery, and Uber collects the money on your behalf from the customer, and then it sends the money into your bank account, right? So that's your income that comes to your bank account, right? You are gonna at the year end, you're gonna report that as your income, and whatever expense you incurred, like your gas and other car expense and phone and this and that, all of those expenses are your deductions, right? The business portion of those. I've explained that in detail in a separate video, like which expenses you can claim as Uber Eats, and which expenses, how you should claim those expenses. So all those details are in a separate video. I'll put a link in the description for that. The last thing, the next thing is that understanding the taxes. So again, normally Uber Eats, the people who do Uber Eats, they just have to take care of their income tax, which is, the income coming from Uber and the expenses that you are paying for. The net amount out of that, the net amount, which is like, let's say you made $100 as income, $60 were your expenses, the $40, which is your net income, is going to be taxable. And the tax that you will pay on that $40 is the income tax. So normally, Uber Eats people have to take care of income tax only. But if the revenue goes above $30,000, then they have to also take care of the HST, which is the harmonized sales tax, which is related to the sales that you're making. So that's a separate tax return, right? So the point that you need to understand is that you will be taking care of or paying the income tax at the year end, at the time of filing tax, and you might have to pay at that time, because sometimes what happens is, since you were doing a job, when you file your tax return, usually you might get some refund. But in this case, when you file your tax return, you might have to pay, because there was no tax deduction at the time before. No tax deduction. Whatever you were making, all the money was coming into your account. So now you have to pay tax on that income. That's a very important point that you need to understand. And the second point that you need to know is that if your revenue is going to beyond $30,000 threshold, then there will be HST application as well. So which, as I said, I've explained in a separate video. All right, so I think those are the main things that you need to know when you're doing Uber Eats. If you have any questions, any comments, you can just write those in the comment box, and I'll try my best to answer those. And enjoy driving, enjoy delivering the foods and making people happy.